Welcome to another episode of Real Talk with Real Fit Pros. It's your boy, Jonathan Loudermilk, and I've got my PIC partner in crime, Mark, the fitness ninja Zalmanoff. And before I pass the baton, I need you to know this is a damn good special episode we put together. We're actually live in the studio. We've got a guest that you will not believe that we have in today. But before I relinquish that information, I need you to do something for me. Do all the things. Hit us with the subscribe. Hit us with the 5-star review. Take a snapshot and share it on Instagram. And tag us at Fit Pro Bros so that we can get this in front of more fitness professionals so we can change their lives. And with that being said, passing it off to Mark. What's up, buddy?
What's happening, man? Dude, I'm so excited. Y'all know I'm excited about this one. So I'm going to give you a little background of our guest today. And then I have a special way of announcing him that is so fitting because of who he is. This guy, you know what? I've known him for probably about 3 years now.
Right about.
And I tell you what, when you talk about genuine human beings, I feel blessed to call this man a friend, to have been able to mentor him. He's a husband. He's a father. He is the hardest worker in the room. He's got like 40 abs. He leaps like his leaping ability is just insane. But what's been really cool is, you know, when I met you, you were transitioning from a corporate gym environment to working on your own.
Right.
And I didn't really even understand what your life looked like at that time. Like, you walked in the gym that I was working at the time. We're like, oh, hey, you're cool. You know, we kind of hit it off and just took it from there. But it's been such an honor to watch you grow, to watch you really step into the role that God has provided you, and to watch you use your platform to not only better your life, but to better the lives of people around you.
Right.
And so, you know, from your journey of finding Christ and finding your passion and doubling down on everything that you do, it has been such an honor to watch you. I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you.
So this guy, he is a fitness coach, if you couldn't tell that. He is a professional wrestler. He wrestles for OIWA, which is the Organized International Wrestling Association. He has a podcast called the 13th Floor Mindset Podcast. He's also a rapper and a singer. He's got a couple albums out on iTunes. It's really crazy. Like, when I start thinking about, damn, you just do everything. He's got a book coming out. Yeah. We'll talk about that in a little bit. I love the title. And he's just an awesome human being to know. So because he is a wrestler and he is a current champion, so when you see the videos of this, the highlight clips, you're going to see a wrestling belt sitting in front of this young man because he earned it. So I'm going to give him a little special announcement. Let me clear my throat here. All right, here we go. Hailing from Dallas, Texas, he stands 6 feet tall, 195 pounds of pure muscle. He is the reigning, defending OIWA International Heavyweight Champion of the World, Dontae Primetime Smiley. Dontae.
You're welcome.
Welcome to the show, my man. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, brother. I appreciate everything you said as well, man. You know the feeling's mutual 100%.
I love it. So I know we just told you we always start these things off with story time before we dive in. So what you got for us, man?
All right, so obviously being a wrestler, you know, fans are different sometimes, that's for sure. So I used to wrestle out in Mineral Wells, Texas.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, if you've never been to Mineral Wells, Texas before, there's nothing out there and there's no reason to go, to say the least, other than when people are wrestling out there. And myself and my tag team partner, my former tag team partner, Ty Wilson, we had just got finished with a match, and it was before intermission. We get to intermission, and we're at our merch table. And there's this lady that comes up to us, and she slips Ty this note. And Ty opens it, and we're like, what the hell she slipped us for? And so he opens it, and it's her number. And it says, hey, I want y'all to call me after the show. And first off, she's Mineral Wells, Texas.
That was the first question I was going to ask.
So first and foremost, regardless, girlfriend, that was not happening. Like, you know what I mean? There's a few missing teeth and everything up in there. You know what I'm saying? It was that good. But so we just ignored it, right? She slipped a note and left. Like, she didn't want anybody to know. So we go on with the night. Night ends after the second half of the show ends, and we go out to get our stuff, and she comes up to us, and she's like, hey, did y'all read the note? And, you know, we weren't going to lie to her. Like, yeah, we read it. So she was like, yeah. She was like, I want both of y'all to come over. We're like, what? She was like, yeah, I want both of y'all to come over. She was like, I want to have sex with both of y'all at the same time. And we're like, oh, the fact that she's actually saying this to us like that, we're like, okay, how do we get out of this right now? And then she ends it with, she's like, my brother lives at the house too, but he'll be in his room. Mind you, this is a 40-some-odd-year-old woman. She's invited us over her house for us to tag team her, so to speak. And her brother lives at the same house. Welcome to professional wrestling, everybody. Welcome to professional wrestling.
The best part of that story, she's like, hey, look, I need you to know my brother's here, but it's okay. He's going to be in his room.
I know. That's
like, no big deal. We'll put that underneath the rug. It's no big deal. He's going to be in his room playing Xbox.
Man, like, we're confused all the way. And then the moment she said that, we were like, Jesus Christ, what is going on out here, dude? But that's Mineral Wells. That's Mineral Wells in the crab bucket. If you've never been out there, there's Mineral Wells for you, everybody. You're welcome. Like,
all wrapped up in one nice little package there.
We could, like, call their town, like, the tag team champions or something after
dude,
that, you know?
That was one of the oddest offers that we had ever had, you know, throughout our career. Because we've had multiple offers. He's had some, I've had some, we've had some over our career. But that was by far the oddest thing that has ever happened that we've been asked to do, 100%.
That is amazing.
And the funny thing is, the tag team part isn't the bad part.
Right.
Where the shit went south instantly was when she said her brother lived with her and he was just in the other room.
And John, I think you're right. He was probably like, you know, naked in the beanbag eating Cheetos, playing Xbox.
But he could be a referee. You know, someone's got to officiate the fight here, you know?
I mean,
wow.
Mineral Wells, he's probably more than a referee, to be honest.
Well, that's
Mineral
a phenomenal
Wells,
story.
Texas, everybody. Bet you weren't expecting that one.
Man, I tell you what, like every time, you know, we get guests in and they have good stories and then another one comes, you're like, oh, damn.
Right?
Ain't gonna top that. And then we got that. So
yeah,
there we go.
Yep.
Oh, I love it.
Because y'all heard the Tony story when he was on here about the pictures and stuff, which I've had that before too. But that was by far not the oddest thing I've had happen. You know what I mean? You expect when you have bodies, people want to see it and stuff like that. But what happened in Mineral Wells, Texas 5 years ago or so was by far the oddest situation.
I love it. I love it. All right. So let's dive in a little bit. Your wife just had a baby.
Correct.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I told you the other day, so I texted Dontae and I was like, hey, dude, congrats on doing the one thing you always want to do all the time.
Right.
Good job. Good job. So, and you have another daughter who's 5, correct?
Correct.
How has being a father changed who you are as a man?
You know, it took a little bit. Like when I first had Harper, I wasn't in church at that time. Harper was born in January of 2016, and I didn't even get back into church. I wouldn't say get back. I didn't get into church until January of 2017. And when I was first with her, I mean, I was kind of content, man. You know, it's trial and error, right? As parent it is, you can read all the books, read all the notes, whatever, online stuff, watch stuff. None of that matters. You know, it's like watching a motivational video. Nothing matters until you start doing the work and react on it. You know what I mean? And, so at first it didn't change me, unfortunately. And I say unfortunately because it took me dislocating my foot later that year in November of 2016 and me kind of getting depressed and my mind really going south with suicidal thoughts, and then in turn me getting saved to really realize what life is about, and not what we do but who we are. You know what I mean? As far as what we do as the wrestlers, as trainers and stuff, that's just stuff that we do. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, we try not to take that home with us when we're with our wife, with our kids, or whatever it may be. And it took that injury for me to really realize that I was more than what I was doing, because when I got hurt and wrestling was taken away from me and fitness was taken away from me, where I couldn't work out, let alone train, because I've been training for going on 7.5 years now. And so all my income was lost, because everything that I was about and what I was wrapped up in, who Dontae was in what I did, not who I was. And I didn't have the mindset that I obviously do now until after that, getting saved and getting to church, taking my business over to CrossFit Templum, and then meeting Eric, which in turn I met Ryan through that, which in turn now 3 years later, part of Apex, and now we're at where we're at with business and books and everything of the sort. So I'll be lying if I said it wasn't a little bit of trial and error, you know what I mean? But now, with the second one, we're off to a great start, you know what I mean? Not only do I have all this stuff that's laying out a legacy for my family, you know what I mean? I'm mentally a lot stronger, let alone physically a lot stronger, let alone spiritually a lot stronger and grounded, so to speak. And so now, Nora is getting a little bit of more a head start in where she's at than Harper did, you know what I mean, at that time. Harper was around throughout the transition of all that, you know what I mean, because it's been over the last 4 years now since I've been saved. But her first year was a wreck, man. I was just kind of all over the place. I was very content with everything that was going on, because I was one of the top trainers for UBF at what company was that at? It was at a Fitness Connection. Did you work for UBF before?
I did.
Perfect. There it is. And right. So most of those are in Fitness Connections. I was burning like 250 sessions a month. So I was working a lot and getting paid nothing relatively, because they're taking like 55-60% of what you bring in, you know what I mean? So I was working all that and bringing home, $2,500, $2,700 a month, to where clients found that out and they were like, man, that's all you get paid? And they would like start tipping me, you know what I mean? They're like, you need to get more than that. So they're like, nice. Here's $40 extra, here's $50 extra, or what, whatever it may be, and all that. And so it's been a transition, man, you know what I mean? But it's been a worthwhile one, because I believe that everything happens for a reason, and some stuff in life is just a rite of passage for you to grow through what you go through, to have that breakthrough to get to your next, you know what I mean? So between the injury, between me needing to leave UBF and do everything that I did there, going into my own business and stuff, everything was meant to happen. What happened when I was in the music business and why I left that was meant to happen, because certain stuff that even happened back then when I left music still is with me today. And the reason I focus on different things than I did back then, because I learned from those mistakes that I made back then. And so, it's all about, when a mistake is made or when something needs to be changed, and you know what it is, because it's not a blind spot anymore once it's pointed out by yourself, or let alone somebody else that's like, hey, this is a blind spot, this is something you need to work on, this is something you need to fix, I've realized you've been doing this. At that point, it's up to us to make the action on it, you know what I mean? And if we don't, if said thing happens again, it's only our fault, you know what I mean? You can't blame anybody else, because it's not like it's a blind spot anymore, because now it's been pointed out. So what's pointed out isn't blind, it's in front of you now. And so it's just been a lot of that, man. So it's been a journey, but a definite worthwhile journey, and we're steadily going up.
That's there's a lot to unpack there. So number one, I feel bad for most first kids, because that's the same experience most parents have. You're like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing.
Right.
We're just going to kind of wing this. And then you have the second one. You're like, oh, well, I'm a little bit smarter now. And then the second kid gets all the good shit, right? And the first one's like, why did I get left in the closet with Cheerios? Like, that wasn't cool. And we wonder why they're traumatized, right?
It's like your first training client versus your 50th or your 100th.
Right.
The 100th going to get a little bit better version. That first one, God bless you. You were my beta test.
Right, for
I
real.
got you covered though.
So I know a little bit of this. Your ankle injury was really a huge pivotal moment in your life.
Yes.
Talk us through what happened, like how it happened, where it happened,
right,
and how that really truly just shifted your life in the direction that you're in now.
Yeah, so I was training a basketball client. Been a basketball player my whole life up until the point of my injury. That's when I stopped playing basketball. But I was training one of my clients that I had. He was a young kid. His dad hired me to do like skills training with him at the gym when I was at Fitness Connection at that time, working for UBF. And, we were just in there doing like some rebounding drills. We were doing like some dunk drills. I was kind of teaching them, this is how you hold this is how you hold that. I've been dunking since the 8th grade, have had zero problems on my landings, ever. Never landed awkwardly, always landed perfect. And this one time when I showed him one, I went up with a Tomahawk 1 and I came down, and what the orthopedic surgeon said was that being that I didn't slip on anything, and because somebody had the video of when it happened too. I don't have it anymore, but somebody back then had it. I landed perfectly, but he said I landed so hard, and me being flat-footed, it sent such a shock to my joints and weakened them just enough in that moment where I suffered a subtalar joint dislocation is what it is, and it's pretty much where that bottom of your foot shifts in. You know, because Dak Prescott actually suffered the same thing, but his was to the outside, which is why his took longer to heal because he had all them breaks with the direction that it went, because our ankle going to the outside is not natural. Going to the inside a little bit more natural. So I just had the dislocation and a small fracture. And it took 2 adjustments for them to fix. They thought they were going to have to do surgery because the ER doctor that was there that night, because I had to go be taken by ambulance and everything, it was a whole mess. And it was, man. And the ER doctor that was at the hospital that night said that he couldn't get it all the way there because he adjusted it. They did the x-rays again, and it still wasn't all the way in the position that it needed to be in. So he had to call the orthopedic surgeon because they're like, if we can't get it all the way where it needs to be, we're going to have surgery on it like now. And luckily, when the orthopedic surgeon got there and he adjusted it, it was just enough. It was just good enough to where I wouldn't have any major problems as time went on without having surgery. And my dad's always told me, like, if you don't need to be cut open, like, don't let them cut you open. If it's something that can kind of heal, like, you might lose mobility, this and that, just a little bit, but just don't let them cut you open unless it's like a last resort. And so since he said, that it was pretty much going to be what it was before, relatively, minus a little bit mobility, which obviously all the scar tissue that built up down there, I don't have the greatest mobility on my left side as I do my right side, but I have enough for what I need to do with everything, you know what I mean? I don't have a problem squatting acid grass or anything like that, So that happened, man. They told me I was going to be out 6 to 8 months. I told him that was a lie because I'm not going to do your rehab. Because my thought process going into it was if they were going to have me do their rehab, they were going to have me do twice a week going to the rehab clinic or something like that, let alone now I'm having to pay every time. When I'm like, look, I've been a fitness trainer for 3-4 years at that point that it happened. I was like, nobody's going to be harder on me to come back to be able to wrestle, to be able to train and all this stuff than I will myself. And y'all are going to do is to have me in here pushing, pulling my ankle, doing band work. Like, I know how this goes. I've been injured before. Not that major of an injury, but I've been injured before. So I know how this works. And so I told him I was going to do my own rehab, which I did. So even when I got back to working and I was on one of them little scooter joints where I was rolling around the gym, one of them single leg scooters, like as I was training clients, I would literally sit down once I was out the hard cast, because I was in a hard cast for about a month and a half. Once I got out the hard cast and was able to move it like every single day, push, pull, and I was not easy on myself. It hurt. But once again, if I wanted to come back in less than 6 to 8 months, that's what it was going to take. It was going to take me doing that stuff every single day. And I ended up coming back at about 3.5 months, fully wrestling, fully training, fully jumping, fully lifting, and all that kind of stuff. But by that point that happened, so that was in November when the injury happened. By the time mid-January happened, when I was still in the cast, like I said earlier, everything I did was wrapped up in everything about who I was wrapped up in what I did. So my identity to me was the wrestler Dontae, the trainer Dontae. Yeah. It wasn't Dontae, who is a wrestler, Dontae, who is a trainer. The roles were opposite. And so I started getting really depressed when I was out because I wasn't able to provide. And I was the type of person where I've always, if I'm going to have a wife and a kid as a man, you know what I mean? I want to be able to provide. So I felt worthless as shit, to be completely honest, is what it came down to. I felt like there's no value in me. I was hurting the family more than helping. And it got to the point where I got very suicidal thinking and the depression and manic depressive disorder, kind of bipolar, runs in the family. Like, I've never been diagnosed with it, but my closest family members, my mom, my brother, they all kind of have gone through it, you know what I mean? And so this is the first time where I'm really having genuine depression, to where I'm really having these suicidal thoughts. And there was one day where it was at its worst, and I used to be addicted to pain pills back when I was in college. 'Cause I used to take like a whole bunch of party drugs, and when I was in the music business and all that kind of stuff. But I got off of all that, so I hadn't had pills by that point in like years or anything. But what's the first thing doctors do? Good old big pharma, take some drugs. You know what I'm saying? And so that, and of course, you with an injury like that, they're going to give you the good stuff, which I avoided taking for a while until I started getting depressed. Then it was like, let me take these to get my mind off of it. Like what a lot of people take drugs for is to get their mind off of what they have to deal with in the real world and stuff. Not many people are just drinking or smoking or doing whatever, literally just to like chill out. You know what I mean? Majority of people take drugs to cope with something, you know, and so I avoided pills, all that kind of stuff for a long time. And then one day, like I say, I was kind of at my worst. And then I started taking them again. Then I started doing other stuff again. Then I started taking more pills until I was, now it's just dragging me down. So now I'm at my lowest. And now the suicidal thoughts were there. And there's one day when Sabrina was gone, I was like, I'm done. Like, I'm nothing but a burden to everybody as of right now. You know what I mean? And to me, at that point, there was no end in sight. You know, Sabrina had been trying to help me. Sabrina's my wife. And, you know, she had been trying to help me and all that. She suggested I go talk to somebody, go talk to a therapist or something like that. Me being man, I was like, no, especially, you know, and honestly, like straight up in the black culture, a lot of black people just don't go to therapists. You know what I mean? Because it's just not a common thing in the inner city for us to go to therapists. It's like we gonna handle our own like we always have. You know what I mean? And that's kind of the mindset I was in then. You know what I mean? If I was having problems now, I'm like, yes, please somebody talk to me. Please, we're not here. You know what I mean? But back then, I wasn't where I was at today. And so I'm sitting in the closet with some pills and a knife, having these thoughts. And I remember before doing anything, I just looked up and I was like, if there is a God, I need you to show me right now. Literally said that out loud while I'm sitting in my closet floor crying, ready to commit suicide. And in that instance that I said that, I literally felt the most calming, cool feeling come over my body. Nothing I had ever felt before. And and I'm a person, it was one of the first times where I was like, I got to take this as a sign. Like, you know, most of the time we ignore signs, right? We ignore the green lights that we get in life for one way or another. And me saying that and feeling it instantly after it, right after I said now, I knew that was a sign. So I didn't do anything, left the closet. Sabrina got home like 10, 15 minutes later. I kind of told her where I was at, what I was getting to do. And she just looks at me and she's like, well, I've tried to help you. Friends have tried to help you that you talk to. You won't go to a therapist. She was just like, you need to figure out what you need to do to help yourself if that's the case. And that was the best thing she could have ever said to me. You need to figure out what you need to do to help yourself. You know. And later that day, I was looking through my wallet and I had an invite card from Elevate Life Church, and that a client had given me 2 or 3 years prior. Oh, and, wow. And what's funny is I'm habitually known for like cleaning out my wallet. Like if it's not debit cards, the cash and my ID, like typically I don't want it in my wallet, to be 100%. And I always clean my wallet out, but somehow that card lasted all these years through all the cleanings. And so I was like, you know, well, maybe we should go to church. You know, that's something I hadn't been in since I was a knee-high kid. And she was like, all right. She was like, let's try it. You know, she grew up in church. She only wasn't going probably because I wasn't going, right. As is typical when a man's not going to church and their woman has. It's kind of typical for the woman just to kind of follow the man if he doesn't want to go type deal. And that's all that was, because she was fully raised in church until she started dating me in college. We started dating in 2008. And we're talking now, this is going on in 2017 when we're getting ready to go to church. And so that following Sunday, when I had that last episode was on a Friday, that next Sunday, 2 days later, on January 29th of 2017, we went to ELC, and there was Pastor Josh, who was Keith Craft's son. He was preaching that day, and he was preaching about growth and growing through mindset. And that day, it was the start of the year, and he does the word of the year every year. Pastor Keith does, and the word of the year that year was grow. And the quote was, when you grow through what you go through, you create breakthrough. And when I heard that over and over and over on this Sunday, that changed my life. I'm in church crying. Sabrina just has her hand on my leg, you know, like it's going to be okay. And at the end of the service, as most services, you know, he did the prayer of salvation at the end for anybody that wants to receive Christ as their Lord and Savior, so on and so forth. And, you know, I said the prayer. I went and talked to a pastor afterwards, and haven't missed a day of church since. Even when I travel, I watch it on my phone. You know what I mean? I make sure I'm very intentional about staying in tune with making sure I need that. But and a lot of people that I met early at ELC when I first started going there have some have come and gone. A lot of people still there. And, you know, and the one thing it's weird because I've wanted to go just try new churches with friends and stuff or whatever it may be. But I'm like, man, I feel like just what that church has done for me with where I was then,
right,
and the alignments that I've made because of that church, and because I wouldn't have found Eric's gym if it wasn't for me knowing the words of the year. Because when I found the gym on Facebook, the picture for CrossFit Templum was a picture of one of the words of the year from the banners.
Yeah, on the
and
banners.
I'm like, man, this dude must go to ELC, and that's literally the only reason I messaged him. I was like, alignments, right? He goes to the same church as I do. Maybe we'll click. And lo and behold, now I've been there going on it'll be three going on 3.5 years now, you know, and so, yeah, it's just been a journey, bro. Like, after I got saved, like I said, I never looked back, pressed in daily. And, I mean, the work gets harder afterwards. It ain't like anything was set in stone then. It gets harder because now you got to be intentional about the things you need to change. Because now you understand that you can't just go through the motions, you know what I mean? We were created by design, so we got to live by design also. And that was something that I had to really figure out as I was going through this process. And like I say, luckily I did figure it out, and we're steadily grinding it out, you know, taking everything day at a time, steadily working, steadily growing, steadily invested in myself and on multiple accounts. And now we're here, you know, on the Fit Pros Collective podcast. You know what I mean?
Dontae, I want to thank you for sharing that, man. Like, I don't know, have you guys ever read the book, The Peaceful Warrior by Dan Millman?
I have not.
You need to read that book because you are the living fucking representation of that story. So basically, I don't want to take away from what we're talking about you, but basically the gist of the story is this gymnast who was a master we did in college ended up injuring himself where he couldn't compete anymore. So he was like, who am I now?
Right.
And he got this mentor that walked him through going, no, being a gymnast isn't who you are. It's just what you do.
Right.
And then he gets deeper, and then the mentor's like, he finally let go of like, okay, I don't have to be a gymnast. And he's like, now you're going to go be a fucking gymnast again. And he's like, what? I just let go of that.
Right.
So then he goes back and he basically, go read that book. Your life story is that. So I just want to thank you for sharing that, man. That's awesome.
And you know, like to pick, I'm actually glad you said that. So to piggyback off of that, right? So we go through that situation of finding out who we are at the core,
right.
and who we are is not what we do on the outside in these streets, so to speak. And so now, especially with something like wrestling, you see all these wrestlers that are out there that are doing it in the 50s, like they 60, 70, like they just can't let it go because they are that. You know what I mean? They have no idea who they really are other than being the wrestler that they've always been from the 80s, the 70s, the 60s, whatever it may be. And even still today's time with how the independent circuit is and even the mainstream circuit, 'cause I've been on AEW a couple times as well. Like even up there, a lot of wrestlers have no idea what they're going to do after wrestling. Right. You know, if I wanted to quit wrestling, if I said I'm tired of it, I want to make sure I save my body, I want to be with my kids, I just want to focus on my businesses, I could literally do that right now and be completely satisfied with my decision. Because I know ultimately all this is a rite of passage. I love doing this, and I'm going to do it until I don't want to. You know what I mean? The one thing I've always said is I'm not going to make wrestling, I'm not going to let wrestling make me quit wrestling, meaning I'm not going to let it beat my body down. I'm going to leave relatively like while I'm on top. You see, all the most successful wrestlers have left while they were on top and just got out while the good was still going. You know what I mean? And that's exactly what I want to do because there's so much more to life that I have found that I want to do. You know what I mean? When it comes to telling people these stories, because there's a lot of people in different areas of business, entertainment, life that need stories like this because they feel who they are is in what they're doing. And if they lose that or if it goes south, then they're going too, just like I did at that first time. If we don't have people out there sharing these testimonies or that they can listen to that are like, man, he's been through that, then I know I can make it. Because that's a big thing. Even with like my podcast, I always say that I would never talk about anything that I haven't been through or somebody I personally know hasn't told me that they've gone through. So nobody can ever say, oh, he's talking, what does he know? You know what I mean? Because I've been through it. My best friend has been through it. My man John has been through it, whatever it may be. You know what I'm saying? So everything is a factual thing, and I never speak on anything that I haven't been through or been associated with where somebody else has, because that's important. People need to know and be vulnerable enough to share those stories. That way other people can grow and be helped. And I think ultimately that's where somebody like myself is going to come in, especially with like a younger community of people, of dreamers, so to speak, because the entertainment is big overall, from musicians to actors to people that want to be in wrestling to, you know, whatever it may be. And with that is going to come a lot of ass kicking. And once you do it for so long, you know what I mean? You it's easy to get wrapped up in that is who you are, or in all you feel like you're known as. But I'm a living testament that that's not the case. You know what I mean? And I feel like my voice is going to be ultimately what carries me down the line with a lot of stuff that I do, and everything that I'm doing kind of right now with the wrestling, with the music. It's all a rite of passage. I love doing all this. You know what I mean? But I think it's a rite of passage more so for my next and where I'm going in the next, 5 years or so.
Well, you found your purpose, and those just sound like those are just multiple vehicles.
Right.
You've created. Me and Mark talk about that all the friggin' time, of like not typecasting yourself and like, well, here's what I do, and if I don't have that, then I'm lost.
Right.
It's, what's your purpose? What are you really trying to do? And then, okay, cool. The vehicle becomes easy then.
Right.
They're just different channels for you to shine your light like you
Right.
are today, man. So, Mark, if you want to expound on that.
Yeah, I mean, and it's hard because one of the first things we ask anybody when we meet them is, oh, what do you do?
Right.
I mean, that's the first words out of our mouth. And I don't know where that got ingrained in the way that we greet people, but we always want to know what people do, because what happens is as soon as you tell me what you do, I start putting you in some category in my head.
Right.
Some arbitrary, oh, you're a janitor.
Right.
Or oh, you're a CEO. We start judging people, and that's it's not good or bad, but we do it. And it's hard to get out of that mold. And again, just something I love about you, Dontae, is owning your individuality and understanding that you are the vehicle.
Right.
Right? You're the vehicle, and whatever aligns with, we talk about core values all the time. Like when things align with your core values, you can go that route. And if they don't, you're going to regret. If you go down that route and it doesn't align, you're going to regret it. At some point, you're going to hate it.
Right.
Like you may be great at wrestling, but if it wasn't something that really aligned with your overall mission and your platform and your ability to get in front of people, you shouldn't be doing it.
Right.
But thankfully it does, and we get to see you like jump 6 feet in the air. I swear to God.
See me surf on human beings and stuff.
I'm going to start calling you Miles Morales, man. It's like the Spider-Man over here.
It is insane. You'll post clips, and I'll show my wife. And I'll be like, look at this. And she just shakes her head. Yeah. She's like, how is that even real? Like, I don't even know how it's real. So we'll lighten this up a little bit. Where did your passion for wrestling come from? Like, where did that originate? And how did you decide that not only did you like it, but that you were actually going to go pursue it?
So my passion for it comes from my dad. Like, I mean, at my youngest age, I remember my dad having WWE on, you know what I mean? And relatively started about the Attitude Era when I was like 6 years old of the East. So I would have been, we're talking 94-ish, 95-ish, you know what I mean? And so him always having it on, that's just kind of how I fell in love with it. Then there's this guy named The Rock that came on the screen, and I was like, this is the coolest dude ever.
Right?
This dude got the Versace shirts and the glasses, and he could do his eyebrow like that. I used to try to tape my eyebrow up and stuff like that because I cannot do it at all still to this day. I did all that stuff, man. I had the little wrestling figures. I had about 100 of them, bro, like for the longest time, man. So, I mean, from an early age, it was there. I've always watched my whole life. There's a downtime in college where I didn't watch for a little bit, just obviously just being busy with fraternity life and college life and all that cool stuff. And then I started wrestling in 2014. Before I became a wrestler, myself and Ty Wilson had a podcast. It was like a video podcast on a site called Deep Ellum On Air. So anytime we were on, it was actually live, where people go to deepellumonair.com and then they'll watch it while we're there. We actually had to go to the studio out in Deep Ellum to shoot it and rent out the booth and all that kind of stuff. And there was one day where Ty and I were on, and I was like, man, have you ever thought about trying to become a wrestler? He was like, no, man, I've never thought about it. He was like, what about you? I was like, no, man, me neither. And I was like, let's look it up up when we get done. You know what I mean? And so we looked it up afterwards, and just Googling, typed in, pro wrestling schools in Dallas, and only one came up, which is Metroplex Wrestling, MPX. And at that time, obviously now there's a lot, but at that time only MPX came up. And so I was like, man, let me hit him up on Facebook. So I get on Facebook. I'm like, hey, we run this this vlog, this video podcast, and we want to come out to do photography and videography, do some interviews. Do you mind? And he was like, no, man, of course. It's publicity. You didn't have to pay us to do anything. We're like, we just want to do it. So we got to go to the event. We did the photography for him, did some interviews, all that kind of stuff for the website. Then a lot of wrestling promotions will go out to like eat or drink afterwards and stuff, just to relax from the night and drink some of the pain away and whatnot. And so we went out with the wrestlers afterwards that night, because we hit it off with them through the interviews, and they just appreciated what we were doing while we were there, because it's not often that people are like, hey, can we come do some free publicity for you? And so we're out drinking, having a good time, and, everybody's sitting down with us. Hey, have you thought about becoming a wrestler before? Y'all got some decent figures. I was like 165 pounds and like, you know what I mean? And, they're like, yeah, you got some decent figures. Yeah, we do this, we do that, we do this, we do that. Like we have about 5 or 6 different people come up. The last person that came up to us was this chick named Ruthless Lala, one of the realest chicks still today in wrestling that I've ever met. Like, and the reason she clicked with us is because she wasn't trying to sell us. You know what I mean? When she was pitching the school that we should go to, it wasn't a sales pitch. You know what I mean? Like everybody else, it seemed like a sales pitch, right. And so she was like, don't listen to anything they say. She was like, here's a number to this guy named Anthony Black. He runs a promotion called BTW. If you go train with him, he's going to train you right. He's not going to just try to take your money or run you out the business. The effort that you put in is what you get out of it with him. And I'm like, okay, this sounds like something that's a little bit more aligned with, what we're trying to do. And so I got online, messaged Tony, called him, blew up his phone, blew up his Facebook. I'm like, hey, can we come out? We want to, try this wrestling stuff out. He's like, yeah, come out on Monday. Here's my address. I'm like, okay, how much does it cost? Don't worry about that. Just come out on Monday. Here's my address. I'm like, all right, so we go out there, man. That first day, it's all the rope running, all the bumps, all the rope running, all the bumps, bruises all across my back by that night. And I went back that next day, repeated everything. Went back that next day, repeated everything. And literally, I was out there about 6 out of 7 days out of the week. When I first started, we obviously didn't have Harper because this is in 2014. And so we're out there 6 days a week, literally to the point where, like, I'm staying at his house, you know what I mean, to go to training the next day. Like, we were putting in the work so much that we were making people quit. Like, some of the other trainees, we were getting so much attention because we were there so much, putting in the work. Other people were like, well, I'm not getting the attention when I'm there, so I'm going to go somewhere else. Ty and I were like, cool, please do, because that's just more work that we get now, And so we started training, man. We had our first match about 6 months into training, which is very rare. Typically, it takes about a year and a half before people will start having actual matches on shows in front of a live crowd outside of practice matches. But we had put in triple time the work that most had. That's why Tony was like, y'all are ready. He was like, now it's just kind of learning the psychology aspect of what we do. Right. He was like, but skill-wise, safeness-wise, knowing what you're doing, so to speak-wise, y'all are ready. And so he threw us with the Wolves, and me and Ty, we had our first 3 matches against each other. First match, he kind of let us do what we wanted to, and he was like, okay, match didn't make sense, looked good, didn't make sense psychology-wise, so now that y'all have had your fun, let's take a step back and teach y'all how to, formulate these matches properly to tell the story that you're trying to tell in the ring. And so second match was better, third match was better, and then we became a tag team actually after the third match, and we're a tag up until about a year and a half ago when both of us kind of decided that we had done a lot as a tag team because we had won about 8 or 9 different sets of tag team titles over, at that point, about a 5.5-year career, which is very rare for wrestlers to win that many titles, in the independents over in such a short span. But that's how much value we brought to all the places that we were working, and we just did good business. Where there's a lot of people out there that just don't do good business, but luckily we were the ones that were taught right. We were trained right by Tony and by a guy named Lou Starrett, Lamont Williams, who also trained us at one point in Primetime, and so shout out to both of them. And they did it right, you know what I mean? And we learned a lot of good stuff. And then, now we're here doing what we're doing. I got a nice little contract with the OIWA. Been on AEW a couple times, which is a blessing in itself. Just going from some podcasters to now is fun, man. I love it.
and I've rarely talked about this, but you guys probably know, like, I fucking loved wrestling when I was younger. And like my sister and I used to go to everything that came through. Like I've been to WrestleMania before.
Your sister's still about it.
Yeah, my sister still loves it. Like I saw the Von Erichs at the Sportatorium when I was like 5 years old. So like this shit may not be interesting to y'all, but I fucking love it. So
yeah. Like the Rock and Stone Cold's what got me, man. Like the Rock being a bad guy was like the coolest character.
I loved it.
Like I like the corporate Rock.
The corporate Rock was good.
He's just a bad dude, man. Dropping the corporate elbow and Benny Matt coming out there. Like everyone hated him. I was like, let's go. Like just fired me up, man. And it's funny how close fitness and wrestling is. Like I've told this story with Mark a few times. Like I worked at this one company called The Rush, and we did like themed closeouts.
Right.
And we used to do Russia Mania as one of the themes where we'd all dress up as wrestlers, and I dressed up as Kurt Angle because I lost all my hair, so I'm gonna be a bald dude.
Easy, right?
I was like, it's true. So like it was so
pour milk
fun.
on your face and stuff.
Pretty much, man. And it was cool to have like the atmosphere. The gym members were like, what the fuck's going on?
Yeah.
Like it's Russia Mania, baby, and like just the atmosphere that created. So
let me tell you something, brother.
That part, right?
Like my ops manager dressed up as Hulk Hogan. He actually looked like him too. Like the guy was straight up built, had the handlebar. Like it was insane, man. So it's cool. Like you melded the two.
Yeah, 100%.
I love it. So it's fun to watch this evolution of your career. So let's talk a little bit about the book.
Okay.
You're in our Apex fam, and we are all highly encouraged to write a book.
Right.
So talk about the inspiration behind the book, the title of it, what your timeline is, and
All right, so the inspiration behind it is obviously seeing everybody write books, right? We get inspired by those. Like it's like I saw you were writing one, Drewby had come out with his at that time, and all that kind of stuff. And so after I joined Apex, I was up here for a little podcast with Tyler at one point in time, and then we went to Drewby's office because I just want to chat with him and stuff. And we were just talking, and he looked at me. He said, "So when's the book coming out?" I said, "Oh, I'll do it. Once down the line." He was like, there is no right time to write a book. He was like, there's no right time for anything. He was like, bro, you have the story. He was like, I've heard part of your story, and that was enough to write a book on, you know what I mean? He was like, you have the story, so there's no reason to wait. And so literally a week later, I had my book recorded, got it transcribed. We get into fixings. He linked me up with April, and now April's editing my stuff. You know what I mean? And we're gonna try to have it out by, have the book out by hopefully by the end of the summer at the latest and stuff. Because she's flying through the editing and stuff. Because I actually went to school for English creative writing and things like that. So even before I sent her the transcriptions, I went through and spent literally probably a total of about 16 hours myself going through and fixing stuff and editing stuff from the transcriptions and all that kind of stuff to make it even easier for her. You know what I mean? That way she wouldn't have to do as much whenever I send it to her, where some people might get it transcribed and be like, all right, whatever's in there is yours. I'll talk to you later. And so I gave it a little bit of TLC to make sure things were where I wanted to. I talked about what I wanted to, formatted it a certain type of way, and all that kind of good stuff. And the book title is called Becoming Unfuckwittable.
I love it.
It's called Becoming Unfuckwittable. It's kind of how to go from a victim mindset to what I consider, and I had started coining a 13th floor mindset to elevate your life, elevate your legacy, and so on and so forth. And that's exactly what it's going to be out. So like overall, we get in the short scale of my story. You know what I mean? In the book, I go a lot deeper in the stories that I tell, and tell specific stories that got a specific lesson at the end and some quotables, so to speak, for people to get out of it. You know what I mean? And I didn't hold back in it either, like at all. A lot of people sometimes in those kind of self-help, self-development books will sometimes hold back just a little bit. And I'm so vulnerable at this point, it does me no good to hold anything back because everything's in the past that I talk about for the most part. You know what I mean? So if we're all here now and all good, who cares about what happened then? Regardless of how bad it was, regardless childhood, middle school, high school, college, all the dumb stuff, all the bad stuff that I saw, who gives a shit at this point? Because it is the past. And it's what got us here to today. So I'm not ashamed of any of that. I don't have any anger towards any of that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? That's why I put it out there. Because somebody else might be in a mode where it's 15 years later and they're still holding on to some hurt from some stuff their mom or dad did or their brother did or a friend did, you know, back then, and, you know, so on and so forth. And that's stuff that everybody could go through. You know what I mean? And that's kind of where, like I said, what I call the 13th floor mindset comes from, because as y'all know, whenever we have typically the Apex meeting on the other side of this building that we're in, that's the floor that the meetings are on. Yep. And most buildings don't have a 13th floor. Hotels don't have 13 floors, and majority of buildings don't, because it's like the unlucky numbers. So I coined the 13th floor as a lucky number. I'm trying to flip the script on what the number 13 means, because it has elevated me, and there's so much has happened to me by being in that room and being challenged by those individuals in that room. When we have our Apex meeting, I was like, I want to pay homage to the thought process that goes down in this room. You know what I mean? The views that we see when we look out of those windows in there, and it's literally overlooking all of Addison, all of this part of Dallas Metroplex. And you're literally looking at the top of buildings, looking at cars that look like ants down there. You know what I mean? So between the views, between the alignments that are in there, between the mindset elevation that goes down in there and the challenges and stuff, that's what that 13th floor mindset is to me, and why I coined it like this 13th floor is because how we speak and what we do and what we're about in that room now correlates to a lot of the ways that I think and what I do from what goes down in there, and the talks that I've had with guys like y'all, obviously Chris, obviously Ryan, obviously Drewby and Thomas and other coaches and people that are just part of the group that have greatly inspired me. And I'll never be inspired or motivated in vain. And what I mean by that is you'll never inspire me and motivate me by doing something without me attempting to do it also. Like if you believe in me on something, I'm going to try to do it. Just like with Drewby saying, when's the book coming out? It didn't take me long to react. I reacted. Then I think I reacted a little bit faster than he even probably expected, because I was knocking stuff out, getting it done. You know what I mean? He's like, all right. He was like, now you need to create a website. I was like, okay, time to sign up for phone sites. Here we go. Now my phone site is created. I sent it to you, and then I sent it to him and made some corrections. He was like, you need a bio. I was like, the moment I get done with this client, it's going to be done. Finished with the client, got it done. I was like, check this out. Is it good? He was like, yeah, perfect. Like, I don't wait on stuff. You know what I mean? You tell me to do something, you're only going to have to tell me once, and I'm going to knock it out. You know what I mean? If I feel like it's going to be beneficial and I need to do it, which I wouldn't be asking, nor would any of y'all be suggesting for me to do anything if it wasn't going to benefit. That's why I never argue anything. I say, yes, sir. Thank you for making me better. And then I go do it out of respect and out of the gratefulness of, you know, what's being passed down to me.
If y'all aren't ready to drop an elbow off a turnbuckle right now, I don't know. I don't know what the hell you're listening to, because I'm fucking fired up.
Yeah.
And again, you know, something else that I've just always respected about you is you're an action taker.
Right.
And not only that, but you know, when you decide to do something, you just go.
Right.
You know, we what do we say? You know, shoot, ready, aim. Like,
right.
It's just fire it off, and then we'll figure out the rest later on. Right. All right. So as we start to wrap this thing up a little bit, I have a couple more fun questions for you.
Indeed.
So you can answer in detail or as quickly as you care to. Who was your favorite cartoon character as a kid?
Ooh, I think Johnny Bravo, dog.
All right.
Like, I loved Johnny Bravo, bro. Even though my man got turned down he could not pull if his life depended on it.
Johnny Bravo crushed it in the follow-up, though.
Bro,
you know what I'm saying?
I mean, he definitely did, bro. But I just love Johnny Bravo's swag, and he was fearless, bro.
Yeah.
Like, he got all them times he got shut down, which was every single episode, he still attempted. You know what I mean? Right? So it's that situation of Johnny Bravo, you know, he shot every shot. Unfortunately, he missed everyone, but he wouldn't have had the chance had he not taken the shot in the first place. And so I would say Johnny Bravo or maybe Tommy Pickles. I was a big Rugrats fan also.
Rugrats,
I love the Rugrats, and you know I wear a lot of like designer stance socks and stuff all the time. I have a pair of Johnny Bravo socks that are my favorite pair, and I also have a pair of Tommy Pickles socks, which is my second favorite pair.
I love it. All right, if you could wrestle anyone in their prime, who would it be?
Ric Flair.
Woo!
Period. Ric Flair. To me, he's arguably he's arguably the greatest. I mean, the dude is still out there. He's
Which
not
is
wrestling.
nuts.
You know, he's still not wrestling, but he's still in the business doing managerial stuff, behind the stage stuff, and you know, like his legacy is going to be around forever. You know what I mean? Yeah. Where there's a lot of other great wrestlers that one day are going to be forgot about. Like unfortunately, somebody like The Rock. There's a generation now that has no idea The Rock was a wrestler because he hasn't wrestled. They just know him as Dwayne Johnson, the actor that's been in Jumanji.
They're like Dwayne Johnson and The Rock look a lot alike.
I mean, for real, you know what I mean? So, and that's the thing. Like, he left while he was at his prime and early enough to be able to go make a name for himself elsewhere, to where he never has to think about wrestling again. Like, they invited, if I'm not mistaken, I read something where they invited him to WrestleMania. He was like, I'm too busy. Sorry, love y'all, but no. Right. You know what I mean? And but whereas Ric Flair is somebody that would have been like, all right, I'm there. Screw this. I'm coming back over there, because that's just how he is with the business and how he knows his legacy is. Same thing with somebody like Hulk Hogan. But if I could wrestle anybody at their prime 100%, it would be Ric Flair, because to me, he's not my favorite. The Rock is my favorite, but to me, Ric Flair is the greatest to ever do it overall, from every aspect of wrestling, psychology, and skill that you need to be a great wrestler.
You know what's great is you can go to any live event that has any type of a crowd of people and go, woo!
And everybody will do it.
People start doing it. Concerts, doesn't matter what you're doing.
Nope.
I love it. And that's a testament to his impact.
Right.
Not just in wrestling, but just in pop culture overall.
Right.
Love it. All right, last question. If you had a billboard that you could put a message on for everyone to see, what would be on the billboard?
What would be on the billboard would be, you say the message on it? Let's see, because I got a few that I typically use. But I mean, I would say the main one would be what I said earlier. When you grow through what you go through, create breakthrough. You know what I mean? Because I think that suffices for everybody, because everybody's going to go through something that they have to go through. It could be it doesn't have to be on a major injury scale or bankruptcy scale or anything like that. It could be something very, very simple as well. But I think it's one of the most universal things ever. You know what I mean? It'd be something like that, or something that says on the lines of say yes to your next. You know what I mean? Because I think a lot of people have ideas on where they would like to be, whatever they see is their next, but they never actually say yes to it. It just kind of stays the idea. It stays the what if. And I think more people need to say yes to their next. Whatever their next is and their vision, what they're dreaming for, say yes to it and then go do the damn work.
I love that. That's awesome. There you go. So tell the peoples, where can they follow you? Where can they learn more about you? All that good stuff.
Right on. So you can hit me up on Facebook, Dontae Smiley. You can search the name. Everything will come up. All my other social medias are at Primetime Living, and also have a website now, which is just DontaeSmiley.phonesites.com, and you can find all my stuff on there, from the wrestling to the book stuff to the podcast stuff, motivational speaking stuff, whatever. You can find it all there if you want to see it. Anything about me is on there.
And go follow this man. Man, I love watching you, dude. It's so great. It's so fun. And see, and I can call you young man because you're like 10 years younger than me. So I'm like, come here, son. No, dude, thank you so much for coming in here. We really, really appreciate it. You know I love you. You're one of my favorite people in this world. And like I said, if you're listening to this, go follow this guy. Make sure you're watching his journey. Listen to the podcast. Get the book when it comes out. He's just warming up. Just warming up.
Just getting started. Wait till we get good.
Wait till we get good, baby. Oh, yeah. All right, John, why don't you close us on out, buddy?
And as always, be like Dontae and go get with your work, damn it. Yeah. Damn good show.
Damn good.
Damn good.